All right, let's now turn our attention to anxiety disorders. Anxiety itself is a sensation, an experience, an emotional state that we all can relate to. All of us experience anxiety at a certain point in time. However, when anxiety is experienced to an extreme degree where we are overestimating our ability to cope and underestimating our resources by which we have to cope, we can enter into more of a disordered state with our anxiety. When anxiety peaks, it can lead to an unusual feeling of dread, a sense of fearfulness, perhaps even leading to a state of terror. Anxiety can come in intense waves, and it can also be experienced as a free-floating state. Speaking of a free-floating type of anxiety, we begin with generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. Generalized anxiety disorder is described as free-floating anxiety, where a person has an excessive amount of uncontrollable anxiety that persists throughout their day, throughout their activities. So a person may wake up in the morning and say, I'm not sure what I should wear today. I feel really anxious. Should I put on a blue shirt or should I put on a white shirt? I don't know which I'm going to wear today. And then they go brush their teeth. Should I brush my teeth with this toothpaste first, or should I floss first? And every day is a series of anxieties. What should I have for breakfast? Am I going to be late to work? Just constant worries. And the source of the anxiety just shifts all the time. So that's generalized anxiety disorder. Panic disorder, another type of an anxiety disorder, is when a person experiences recurrent and unexpected panic attacks. Now, what's a panic attack? A panic attack is a sudden rush of anxiety that peaks in about a 15 to 20 minute window, maybe even sooner than that. And it's an attack of extreme physiological sensations. So heart beating fast, breathing becoming constricted, eyes dilating, extreme sweating, perhaps getting very dizzy, perhaps getting very nauseous. During a panic attack, a person might feel as if in their mind they're having a heart attack and actually think that they may die. So they're very intense experiences. When a person has recurrent panic attacks in a way where they can't even predict when they're going to have a panic attack, that is when they may be diagnosed with a panic disorder. We know norepinephrine is implicated to some degree in these panic disorders, and we know in terms of treatments, cognitive behavior therapy is among the more popular treatments. Moving forward to obsessive-compulsive disorder, otherwise known as OCD. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, very interesting type of disorder, but a highly impactful one for people who suffer from it. An obsession, the first portion of the disorder, is a repetitive thought that comes up for a person, either as an image or a thought, that comes up over and over and again, and it creates an extreme sense of anxiety. So, for example, a person might have an obsession with germs. And over again, they may think, oh, I just touched that doorknob. The doorknob must have germs in it. I must be getting these germs. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to die because I touched the doorknob. And now I just shook that person's hand, then they have germs on their hands, and that's surely going to be filled with danger, and surely I'm going to die, and I can't stop thinking about how I just touched their hand. And it's an ongoing, obsessional, repetitive thought pattern. The compulsions are repetitive behaviors. Also, that can be mental actions that a person does in their mind, intended to reduce the anxiety that's caused by the compulsion, by the obsession. So if a person has an obsession with germs, they may then have a compulsion to engage in washing their hands over and over again, or purelling their hands on a constant, non-stop basis, but to a degree that is also very ritualized. Not just I'm repeating a behavior, but I must wash my hands 3 times in this particular order, in this particular motion, and if I don't do it in this order, in this motion, I have to start all over again. This is a time-consuming, very troubling disorder, and we know that there is a relationship to a degree to a hoarding disorder. Hoarding is when a person cannot let go of things. They collect either old things or new things or whatever it might be, newspapers, articles of clothing, and cannot let it go because there is an obsession that if I let go of this object, it will be highly problematic. So the obsessional behavior is to hold it close at all times. So this is obsessive-compulsive disorder and hoarding. Let's move on to phobias. Phobias are intense and, this is very important, irrational fears of specific objects or events. A phobia, an example of a phobia is someone who has an extreme fear of heights. Now, it's not just I don't like heights. It's if I get placed in a high on a high floor of a building, I may have a panic attack. It's that degree of intensity. I will be gripping onto the walls while I'm up in that high building. Or I have a phobia of an animal. And that animal, when the dog is around me, I get a panic attack or I have extreme fear and I must run away. I cannot endure that experience without having extreme anxiety. And it's important that we know that there's a great differentiation from just normal, I don't like something, to a irrational fear that leads to changes in behavior. Next, we move on to agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is the avoidance of places where it would be difficult for me to escape from should I get a panic attack. So the notion here is that I might be in a marketplace and have a panic attack, which is a very embarrassing experience for some people. And if they don't have a sense that they can escape that environment, they basically decide not to go out to such environments, and that leads to what we call agoraphobia. It could also be a person who has an extreme fear of going to a cornfield where there may not be anyone available to help me if I have a panic attack. That too can be an example of agoraphobia. Okay, finally, we can talk about social anxiety disorder, which is an extreme experience of fear and anxiety during social interactions with other people, whether it be public speaking and getting extreme anxiety about speaking up in public. It can also be having anxiety about eating in front of other people and the anxiety that is caused by that type of an interaction. So that about covers it for the anxiety disorders that we think are important for you to know for the CLEP exam. We'll see you at the next module in just a few moments.